Good evening. India made a giant leap to destination moon at 2:43 p.m. Indian Standard Time today. The launch on board India's most powerful rocket GSLV Mark III was successful, and the Chandrayaan was injected into Earth's orbit in around 16 minutes after liftoff. It will take around 48 days for the mission to make a soft landing on the south polar region of the moon, a place on the lunar surface where no country has ever gone before. So the historic journey has begun, and the landing will take place in the first week of September. Prime Minister Narendra Modi closely monitored the liftoff and congratulated ISRO scientists for the historic feat. Our in focus tonight is Chandrayaan 2, giant leap of a billion hopes. That and more in today's edition of Newsnight, and there you're seeing the Prime Minister applauding the historic feat. Our in focus is on your screens. Chandrayaan 2, giant leap of a billion hopes. We will discuss this historic feat by ISRO in Newsnight tonight, besides other major news developments of the day. First up, the headlines. In a historic feat for India, ISRO successfully launches Chandrayaan 2 around 16 minutes after liftoff. Chandrayaan 2 injected into Earth's orbit, India to become the first country to do a soft landing near the south pole of the moon. India elated with successful launch of Chandrayaan 2. President, Prime Minister and other top dignitaries congratulate ISRO on the feat. PM Modi hails it as a moment of pride for every Indian. PM sends out congratulatory message to ISRO scientists. Feat applauded in Parliament too. Karnataka's political crisis continues. A discussion continues on the trust motion in State Assembly. Voting yet to take place on the motion. Congress says voting should take place after a decision on resignation letters tendered by rebel MLAs. BJP demands voting today itself. Supreme Court refuses to give an early hearing to the plea of two independent Karnataka MLAs seeking direction to the Speaker to conclude the floor test before 5 p.m. today. Rajya Sabha passes Protection of Human Rights Amendment Bill 2019. Lok Sabha passes a Right to Information Amendment Bill. After discussion, Lok Sabha discusses Motor Vehicle Amendment Bill. IMD Minister Prakash Javadekar presents a report card of 50 days of Modi Government 2.0, says major decisions taken for the welfare of villagers, the poor, farmers, jawans, youth, middle class and traders. Flood situation improves in Bihar and Assam with let-up in rain, but the flood-affected continue to battle the odds. Reports of erosion of coastal areas emerge in rain-battered Kerala. Delhi NCR lashed with heavy rain too. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan faces protests in the United States, with protesters shouting Free Balochistan slogans while addressing resident Pakistanis. India shines in 21st Commonwealth Table Tennis Championship in Qatar. India bags all the gold medals in women's and men's singles and doubles events on the last day of the championship. Our top focus this evening, aiming to take a billion dreams to the moon. India successfully launched its second lunar mission, Chandrayaan 2, on board its powerful rocket GSLV Mark III M1 from the spaceport in Sriharikota to explore the uncharted south pole of the celestial body by landing a rover. Chandrayaan 2 aims to enhance understanding of the moon, the history of the Earth and early solar system, on way to making the moon a launch pad for future missions to other planets and its possible colonization as well.
2, 1, 0.
The much-awaited moment by every Indian. 130 crore Indians, including the scientific community, were waiting with bated breath for 2:43 p.m. Indian Standard Time on Monday. The liftoff at the designated time of India's most powerful rocket, GSLV Mark III M1, infused all Indians with a sense of pride over ISRO's feat. With the launch, Chandrayaan-2 began its journey to the moon. Scientists led by ISRO chairman K. Sivan watched the launch sequence in rapt attention and broke into an applause after every key stage of the rocket's flight, which progressed precisely as programmed. ISRO's chairman described the launch as the beginning of India's historic journey to the moon.
I am extremely happy to announce that GSLV Mark III vehicle successfully injected Chandrayaan-2 in the defined orbit. In fact, the orbit is 6,000 km more than what our internet is better.
The geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle successfully placed the 3,850 kg Chandrayaan-2 into Earth parking orbit 16 minutes after liftoff from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. Chandrayaan-2 will henceforth continue its journey to destination Moon. It will land on the Moon around 7th September after covering a distance of around 3,84,000 kilometers from the Earth. With the successful launch and placement into Earth's orbit, congratulatory messages began pouring in. The President, Vice President, Prime Minister congratulated Team ISRO. In a series of tweets, the President wrote, "The historic launch of Chandrayaan-2 from Sriharikota is a proud moment for all Indians. Congratulations to our scientists and engineers for furthering India's indigenous space program. May ISRO continue to master new technologies and continue to conquer new frontiers." And Chandrayaan-2 will be the first spacecraft to land close to the Moon's south pole in some 50 days from now. The mission is expected to lead to new discoveries and enrich our knowledge systems. I wish the Chandrayaan-2 team every success. Lauding the scientists for the historic feat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also took to Twitter to applaud the achievements. He tweeted, "Special moments that will be etched in the annals of our glorious history. The launch of Chandrayaan-2 illustrates the prowess of our scientists and the determination of 130 crore Indians to scale new frontiers of science. Every Indian is immensely proud today. Indian at heart, Indian in spirit. What would make every Indian overjoyed is the fact that Chandrayaan-2 is a fully indigenous mission. It will have an orbiter for remote sensing the moon and also a lander rover module for analysis of lunar surface. Chandrayaan-2 is unique because it will explore and perform studies on the South Pole region of lunar terrain, which is not explored and sampled by any past mission. This mission will offer new knowledge about the moon. And efforts such as Chandrayaan-2 will further encourage our bright youngsters towards science, top quality research and innovation. Thanks to Chandrayaan, India's lunar program will get a substantial boost. Our existing knowledge of the moon will be significantly enhanced." Prime Minister Narendra Modi was himself closely monitoring the launch from his office. He was visibly happy, relieved and content with the successful launch. Later, he spoke with the scientists and congratulated them on behalf of the nation.
आज का यह सफल लॉन्च पूरे देश और सभी भारतीयों के लिए बहुत गर्व का विषय है। यह एक शानदार उदाहरण है कि हमारे वैज्ञानिकों में सभी चुनौतियों का मुकाबला करने के लिए प्रतिभा है, क्षमता है और आत्मविश्वास भी है। जितनी बड़ी चुनौती हो, आपका इरादा उतना ही पक्का हो जाता है।
Rajya Sabha Chairman and Lok Sabha Speaker informed both houses of Parliament about the feat, and the members applauded ISRO scientists for the achievement.
A few weeks from now, will make India the fourth country to do so. This will also be the first Indian spacecraft to land anywhere in outer space. No man-made object has ever reached the landing site chosen for the lander module of Chandrayaan-2.
ये सभा भारतीय अंतरिक्ष अनुसंधान संस्थान के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को उनके दिन रात के अथक प्रयासों के लिए उनको बधाई देती है।
Ministers of the Union Cabinet also congratulated ISRO.
इसरो के अच्छे कामकाज के वजह से देश का गर्व और सम्मान बढ़ते हैं they do with such ease, they bring credit to this country.
चंद्रयान की सफलता भारत के लिए गौरव का विषय है, वैज्ञानिकों की सिद्धि है। ये एक नई भारत की नई पहचान है। दुनिया की चौथी ताकत हम ऐसी बन रहे हैं। सारा देश आज बहुत खुश है।
The lander of Chandrayaan 2 will soft land on the South Pole region of the moon where no country has gone so far. Chandrayaan 2 is a 3-component spacecraft built with indigenous technology comprising an orbiter, a lander and a rover, and will undergo 15 crucial maneuvers before landing on the surface of moon, expected by the first week of September.
The textbook launch of Chandrayaan 2 from the Satish Dhawan Space Center here in Sriharikota is testimony once again to ISRO's ability to bounce back from setbacks. Now the focus shifts to the 48-day journey of the satellite into deep space. On it will hinge not just the success of the Chandrayaan 2 mission, but also the future of many other missions that ISRO has planned for deep space in the near future. Philip Matthews along with cameraman N. Suresh from Sriharikota for DD News.
So India has a scripted history in outer space. It will soon be doing in the first week of September what no country has ever done before. A soft landing in the south polar region of the moon, and that is going to open vistas of possibilities insofar as space research is concerned and future space programs are concerned. That historic liftoff took place at 2:43 p.m. Indian Standard Time from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, and it took 16 minutes for the entire Chandrayaan 2 to move from that Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota to the Earth's parking orbit. 16 minutes of that journey has happened, and what happens next? That is the big focus now, because after that, according to the ISRO chairman, there will be 15 orbit raising maneuvers, key maneuvers. This is a detachment that is going to happen in a orbit that is 100 kilometers from the lunar surface after well over 23 days, because in 23 days the Earth orbits is something that we are going to see in terms of raising maneuvers. And after that, this detachment takes place several days later, well over 20 days later in that lunar orbit. And after the detachment of the lander and the rover from the orbiter, the lander will look for the best place to land on the lunar surface, and that is going to be a predetermined area on the lunar surface between two craters somewhere near the south pole of the moon on a high plane. It will ensure that there are no rocks and boulders, and then that landing that you just saw is going to take place. And then after those 15 minutes of terror, in ISRO chairman's words, when that landing will take place from the orbiter, this rover that you are seeing, also called Pragyan, and the lander, remember, is also called Vikram. It's named after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the father of India's space program. So this rover will move out after 4 hours from this lander. And what will the rover do next? The rover will do in situ experiments, that is experiments there very much on the surface, which India has not attempted before, which no country has attempted before in the south polar region of the moon. And the ISRO logo is going to be imprinted by our rover. It's a 6-wheeled robotic machine of sorts. It is powered by artificial intelligence and also solar energy, because there will be several solar batteries in it. Its life will be 14 Earth days. One lunar day makes it 14 Earth days. So there are certain payloads that are there in the orbiter, which will keep orbiting for one whole year. And there are certain payloads that are there in the lander and certain payloads that are there in the rover as well. So that rover is going to do your in situ experiments. It can move around 500 meters, that is half a kilometer. Now this is the entire trajectory that Chandrayaan 2 took, and these phases have gotten over. For instance, these ignition stages that you see and the separation stages that you see and the shut-off stage that you see, besides that the separation stage, the ignition stage, the shut-off stage, and then the separation stage. This is the entire trajectory that has already been followed, because like we've been telling you, Chandrayaan 2 is now in the Earth's parking orbit. So that separation from GSLV Mark 3 has already taken place. GSLV Mark 3 is India's most powerful launch vehicle. This is going to be used in Gaganyaan mission as well. So the importance of this launch vehicle, that is the GSLV Mark III, cannot be overemphasized. And here you are seeing on your screens Chandrayaan-2 composite module. It will be aided in achieving its mission by some of India's most advanced engineering marvels. Its composite module, which comprises technology and software developed across the country, includes a wholly indigenous rover and a first lander capable of executing a soft landing. So this is really the magic of Make in India in space, because the rover, the lander, the orbiter and the GSLV Mark III, they are all made in India. Now the next graphic is of the orbiter. The orbiter is going to orbit for 1 whole year at least around the moon, and that is the lifespan. And here you are seeing the dimensions, 2,379 kilograms of weight it has, and the dimensions are 3.2 into 5.8 into 2.1. And this is going to be again solar powered, so this is going to have the solar power capacity of 1000 watts. It will have 8 payloads, no less. Mission life 1 year in lunar orbit. At the time of launch, Chandrayaan-2 orbit will be capable of communicating with the Indian Deep Space Network, that is with India, as well as with the lander. So the orbiter can communicate with the lander as well as with Earth. The mission of the orbiter is 1 year, during which it will be placed in 100 into 100 kilometer lunar polar orbit. So when it is in that orbit, then the separation will take place of the lander and the rover from the orbit. And the Vikram lander, the lander is named after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the father of India's space program. So it's in a way a tribute to Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. And here it says that the weight of the lander is 1,471 kilograms. The power is 650 watts that it will be using. It will have 3 payloads and 1 passive experiment. And the dimensions are there on your screen, 2 into 2.54 into 2 into 1.2 meters. The mission life is 1 lunar day. What is 1 lunar day? It is not equal to 1 Earth day. It is equal to 14 Earth days. So that is going to be the minimum life of both the lander, that is Vikram, as well as the rover, that is Pragyan. Now this is Pragyan rover that we were just talking about. The weight there is 27 kilograms, power 50 watts, payloads 2. These are the dimensions, mission life being 1 lunar day. Besides that, it says Chandrayaan-2's rover is a 6-wheeled robotic vehicle named Pragyan, which translates to wisdom in Sanskrit. It can travel up to 500 meters, that is half a kilometer, at a speed of 1 centimeter per second, 1 centimeter in fact, and leverages solar energy for its functioning. It can communicate with the lander. So the rover can only communicate with the lander, but the lander can communicate with the rover as well as the orbiter as well as Earth. So there is a lot of communication that is going to happen. A lot of these stages will be automatic and autonomous in nature. Mission payloads, orbiter payloads, these are the payloads, that is the instruments that the orbiter as well as the rover as well as the lander will be carrying. So insofar as orbiter payloads are concerned, there are these payloads that you see on your screen, around 8 of them, terrain mapping, the camera 2, so it will be clicking pictures as well. Chandrayaan-2 large area soft X-ray spectrometer will be there, solar X-ray monitor will be there, imaging IR spectrometer will be there, dual frequency synthetic aperture radar will be there, Chandra's atmospheric composition explorer 2 will be there, orbiter high resolution camera will be there, dual frequency radio science experiment will be there, and that is the kind of payloads that the orbiter will continue to carry, 8 in number, as it keeps rotating around the moon for 1 whole year. Now let's look at the Vikram payloads and the Pragyan payloads. Let's come to the Vikram payloads first. There are 3 payloads on board Vikram. Instrument for lunar seismic activity. This is going to measure quakes on the moon. That perhaps has never happened before. Seismic activity or quake activity on the moon, and whether the moon is open to earthquakes, I mean whether there's a possibility of earthquakes at all on the moon. This is something that is going to be determined by this instrument. Chandra is a surface thermo-physical experiment, and Langmuir probe. These are the 3 payloads of Vikram. Besides that, Pragyan has 3 payloads: alpha particle X-ray spectrometer, laser-induced breakdown spectroscope, passive experiment on Vikram lander, laser spectroreflector array LRA. And in the lander Vikram, there is one of these payloads are actually a US payload, which is going to exactly measure the distance, which is around 384,000 kilometers between the Earth and the Moon. But the exact distance to the last decimal point will be measured by that particular instrument or payload that is a US payload which India is carrying. So this is the least of terms historic, and that is why Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated ISRO scientists. The President congratulated. We saw how there was applause in both houses of Parliament for this historic feat. And now we are waiting for that D-Day in the first week of September, because that soft landing on the lunar surface by the lander and rover will take place around 6 to 8 September, most probably on the 7th of September. So that landing date remains the same, even though that journey has been curtailed from 54 days. That's what it was supposed to be on the 15th of July when that mission was aborted, to now 48 days. So 48 days of history. The historic journey has just about begun. But we'll take a break at this point in time, and after the break we'll discuss the importance of Chandrayaan-2 for India and humanity. Stay tuned.
स्वच्छ भारत अभियान का संकल्प, संरक्षित हो जल, हर घर पहुंचे नल।
जल संकट को हमने गंभीरता से लेना होगा, पानी बचाना हर घर को जल, इस मंत्र को लेकर के आगे बढ़ना है।
जल शक्ति समाचार सोमवार से शुक्रवार शाम 6:50 पर सिर्फ डीडी न्यूज पर।
That brings us to our In Focus tonight, which is Chandrayaan-2, a giant leap of a billion hopes. To talk about that, we have with us Dr. Rajeshwari Pillai Rajagopalan, Distinguished Fellow and Head Nuclear and Space Policy Initiative with the ORF, and N. Madhavan, Science and Technology columnist. I welcome you both to Newsnight. I'll begin with you, Dr. Rajeshwari. Chandrayaan-1 was a historic mission for India. It found incontrovertible evidence of water molecules' presence on lunar surface. Is Chandrayaan-2 set to be as historic or maybe more historic than Chandrayaan-1? What's your sense?
So Chandrayaan-1 took place at a time when the competition, the interest in space was not as intense as that we see today. So today there is a big interest to going back to the space, undertaking major explorations and so on and so forth. And even within the lunar space, there has been quite a bit of an achievement in a sense what China has undertaken in the last few years. China undertook the landing on the far side of the moon earlier this year in January. 3 years ago they landed on the near side of the moon. So that's been something that's happened. Ever since President Trump came to office, he talked about going back to the moon, and India and China, Japan have been doing our own small missions, lunar missions in the last few years, and the two countries even have kind of combined their efforts. So we signed an agreement between the ISRO and the JAXA, which is the Japanese Space Agency, to collaborate on lunar missions and so on and so forth. So there has been a greater attention given to broader space exploration, but also to lunar missions in the last few years. And this Chandrayaan 2 in particular has been watched with a lot of interest. It's a major prestigious mission because it comes at a very critical time, but it also carries important payloads from other countries. It carries 3 payloads from Europe, 2 payloads of the US and 1 from Bulgaria. So even others are looking at with as much interest as India did. So it's a proud moment, but it's also a very exciting journey for not just for ISRO and India, but also for the rest of the world. Anybody who's looking at space is also very excited.
India has become the global launch pad. We've seen it in terms of satellites. We're seeing it again in Chandrayaan 2. Mr. Madhavan, is Chandrayaan 2 a logical progression of Chandrayaan 1? Because Chandrayaan 1 did find evidence of water molecules. Will Chandrayaan 2 find water in a more thorough manner besides going into fossil records that could be found there on the lunar surface somewhere in the South Polar region, which will help understand the origin and evolution of the moon and the history of the Earth and India's solar system, besides, of course, the other benefits that will be there of finding water?
Well, I would say, well, this is a matter for scientists. You know, scientists don't get into predictions of the kind stock market analysts do. So we would wait for the data to turn up. But yes, in principle, I mean, as expected, the Pragyan lands despite the vacuum-like surface of the moon on the South Pole and the very hostile sort of a dust it will encounter. There will be a lot of data to analyze, and that put through scientific processes is going to give a lot of insights. But I think there is more to this than that from the Indian point of view, because, you know, somebody was just asking me on Facebook, you know, what's so significant for India when the Americans put a man on the moon 50 years ago? That's a very good question that Indians should be asking themselves. So this is a milestone for India, but what is significant is that we have done it at a dramatically lower cost. Just to give you an example, the Chandrayaan 2 cost 950 crores or something, maybe
978 crores.
78 crores, whereas the latest franchise of the Avengers science fiction movie, to produce a movie, they took 2,400 crores or so. So India is at less than half the cost of what it produces, costs Hollywood to produce a science fiction movie. India has actually sent a rocket to the moon. That is one way of looking at it. The other thing is that this is not a catch-up game as a collaboration game. As you know, Dr. Rajagopalan herself mentioned that India has got a space program with Japan that is in the offing. People are talking, you know, we have people like Elon Musk and, you know, Jeff Bezos of Amazon trying to send private rockets to this to space. So look where they're going to look for talent and companies and services to you know, explore space together. So just like software, India could potentially become a space science or a space service superpower. As you can see, this government's latest budget mentioned a new company called New Space. Antrix Corporation already exists within ISRO to as a satellite launch service company, which shows we've come a long way from the days when we used to put our satellites up from Kourou in French Guiana on the shoulders of others' rockets. Now we've got our own, from PSLV to GSLV. We've come a long way, and from going forward, from Chandrayaan 1 was about just circling the moon. This one is about landing on the moon, and we're talking about sending a manned mission to space. And there is a Shukrayaan that they're talking about.
And so the mission as well.
So the start rate has just begun, you could say that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, Mr. Madhavan is talking about how India is emerging as the space power. It is indeed a spacefaring nation, because once that soft landing takes place on the lunar surface, India will only be the 4th country after the US, China and Russia to have achieved it. But Dr. Rajeshwari, does this also stand out because of the fact that the lander, rover, orbiter and the launch vehicle, they are all made in India?
Yeah, of course. I think that's a tremendous achievement again, and I think this is one thing that has to be, that has made, for instance, ISRO is one of the rare public sector institutions that has made India proud. At a fraction of a cost, India has been able to achieve a great deal in the last several years. First several decades was completely focused on India's development missions, but in the last decade or so, India has been also, and I think that's a natural progression that you're seeing. It's a next logical step for India to kind of as you mature in a sense as a sophisticated space power, you undertake more space explorations, but you also provide, like Madhavan said, you bring in some of the private sector to take on some of the routine missions in a sense. PSLV, for instance, is going to be looked at. We have been talking about the privatization of the PSLV, because that's a tried and tested machinery you have. You don't really need the ISRO to keep launching the routine missions. You can have the private sector or a consortium of private sector industries come together to do that, whereas ISRO will begin to focus on Gaganyaan, for instance, much larger missions with the interplanetary missions and Chandrayaan and so on and so forth. Pure space exploration should be done a lot more focused by the ISRO, whereas some of the routine missions, communication satellites and so on and so forth, can be done by private sector. And I think that's the way that India is also looking at the New Space India Limited that has been set up within the Department of Space this March, is a step in that regard. In a sense, ISRO will do a bit of hand-holding for the new private sector that is coming in this area. We have a sizable talent in the country, so how do you utilize them? How do you tap them into and bring them, take advantage of this expertise and talent out there, and so that ISRO can also stay competitive in the years to come? Because one is of course the growing set of requirements even within India, but the other competitive aspect is the global commercial space market. There is a sizable market that is available, so if India has to be able to tap into that market, India has to step up the number of launches we do and so on and so forth. And that will happen when you also engage with other private sector, and I think that's precisely the idea behind the NSIL.
Mr. Madhavan, how do you see the fact, to put it in Mr. K. Sivan's words, we bounced back with flying colors. On the 15th of July, the liftoff could not happen. A technical snag was detected and it was rectified soon enough. In a matter of days, we've managed a successful liftoff now. So our scientists managed to rectify whatever snag was detected in a matter of days, and that is commendable. And the Prime Minister did point that out in his message to the ISRO scientific community. How do you see that?
Absolutely. I think these are things that go wonderfully. Now let me take you back by just about a week or so. We were all looking forward to two wonderful events. One was India would be winning the World Cup in cricket on Sunday, and on Monday we'll be seeing a cool launch of Chandrayaan 2. So we were all keeping ourselves in a good mood on that, and suddenly we find that we didn't make it to the World Cup final and Chandrayaan 2 did not lift off. So these things are sensitive, as Virat Kohli said, we played bad cricket for 45 minutes and we failed. So a small helium cryogenic engine flaw put us off. And I was present in Sriharikota about 15 years ago when the GSLV had, in 2001 to be precise, 18 years ago when GSLV failed to take off. So these things can be very sensitive, and lots of person-hours of very talented, hardworking scientists have gone in. So although they work with tremendous teamwork, fantastic knowledge and precision timing, there's always some tension to be gone through.
And these glitches are par for the course. Every country really witnesses it. And
absolutely, but it's not something. I think it's very important to remember that NASA, which is the US space agency, has also had its own failures. Including a space shuttle bursting off. So the point is to be optimistic. The point is to be hardworking. The point is not to be gloating over everything so superficially as to forget the immensity of the task. It's very important to be inspired without being glib about it. Right? So that's where I think we've got to be very careful. It's a great milestone. It's a great achievement. But as they say, miles may not be the right word to use when you're exploring outer space. There's lots to do.
Dr. Rajeshwari, the ISRO chairman, said that he's quite content with the way the liftoff has happened, and the parking has happened, or the injection has happened into the Earth parking orbit. He said what we have to achieve tomorrow has been achieved today itself, and this is important because now the journey to the moon has reduced from 54 days, that's what it was supposed to be on the 15th of July, to now 48 days. But going forward, what are the challenges that you think could be there? This is being called the most complex mission, and the ISRO chairman often talks about the 15 minutes of terror of the separation from the orbiter of the lander and its soft landing on the lunar surface.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most complex mission that India has undertaken so far, and even for other countries. For instance, China is somewhat more, slightly more advanced than India's in a sense, and even they took a long time to make their soft landings on the moon. And the first time they did the soft landing, they did on the near side of the moon because it is a complex mission. So to do it on the on the South Pole is a much more complex mission, and even the soft landing, actual spot on which you're going to be landing, it's going to be determined just a little before the actual landing takes place. So when Dr. Shivan talked about a 15-minute terror that's going to go through, I think there is nothing else that can explain that in a sense, and that is how it is going to be. But I think the ISRO scientific communities appears to be reasonably confident about where we are and how we are going to be doing that. I can't make a prediction at this stage about how things might pan out, but I think the fact that we had this technical glitch at the I'm not going to speculate as to what caused it, what were the technical problems. I'm sure the ISRO will come out with a clear finding on this. But the fact that they were able to identify the glitch at the right moment, and they were able to rectify that clearly also, because this is a cryogenic stage which we have developed indigenously. So I think that mastery over that technology is something commendable in a sense.
But in terms of gravitational pull, will there be ups and downs when the Chandrayaan-2 is moving around the Earth as well as the moon, because there would be changes in terms of gravitational pull perhaps on the lunar surface. Besides that, the dust that the lander could encounter when it makes a soft landing on the moon, and what is the amount of water that one would find at the fossil fuel record that one is able to get their hands off? Are these not practical challenges that you see?
There could be any number of challenges, but again, it's difficult to say with absolute certainty as to how things pan out in a sense. All of those things that you mentioned are a set of problems that you could, any country, any mission could encounter in a sense. But to speculate on that and say how things might actually...
No, absolutely. But there are challenges nevertheless with regard to the trajectory and the motion of Chandrayaan-2. Well, Mr. Madhavan, how do you see the fact that the mission directors, the project director, are women, and 30% of the workforce in ISRO comprises of women? So women power in ISRO showing...
well, my friend Minnie Baird has just written a book called The Magnificent Women and Their Flying Machines, which is about the women who were part of the Mangalyaan mission. And so in a sense, the rocket called Women Power has already taken off, and I think Dr. Shivan has done a fantastic job in naming Mutaya Vanitha as the project director. In fact, she was apparently very reluctant to take the job because it involved multiple responsibilities. So there has been an affirmative approach to empower women in this, and Ritu Karidal is also there, and in a sense I mean, we all knew that women were part of this thing, and 30% is a very good number by any standard if you consider the fact that even corporate boards do not have 30% women these days, and to have missions to the women being run by women is fantastic. And I think it's very important to note that this sends a symbolic message out there to anybody that this is the way to do it. And I think in this I would say India is probably ahead of in launching to the moon. It may be part of the top 4 now. I think in empowering women it's probably ahead of the others, although I don't have the data, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I can't come with the data really, but I think we are on the right track for sure, and I think I want to see a woman astronaut. We have the Gaganyaan mission coming up, but I believe that we can't have a woman in that first mission that we are going to be doing in 2022. So we have some way to go, but I think we are on the right track, I would say here.
Okay, so fingers crossed for the landing day that is supposed to be sometime in the first week of September, and also for future missions, for mission Aditya, which would take us closer to the sun, for Gaganyaan mission that should happen by the 15th of August 2022, where the same GSLV Mark III rocket will be used, which has been used in Chandrayaan-2. So the importance of this success really of Chandrayaan-2 is going to lead us to several more missions going forward. Thank you, Mr. Madhavan and Dr. Rajeshwari, for having joined us on Newsnight tonight. Well, the political suspense thriller continued in Karnataka while Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy seemed keen on buying more time for voting on the trust motion. The Speaker of the Legislative Assembly signalled that voting should take place today itself. Addressing the House, the Speaker added that the whips issued will apply to the rebel MLAs. The Supreme Court, meanwhile, refused to give an early hearing to the plea of two independent Karnataka MLAs seeking directions to the Speaker to conclude the floor test before 5 p.m. today. Here's how it all unfolded.
For the third day running, the Karnataka Assembly debated the confidence motion moved by Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy, with the Congress insisting that it not be put to vote till the chair decides on the resignations submitted by the rebel MLAs to the House. Right from the time when the proceedings began, Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar repeatedly reminded the government to honor its commitment to complete the trust process by Monday itself. Congress made a strong plea to the Speaker in the Karnataka Assembly not to put to vote the confidence motion moved by Chief Minister till the chair decides on the resignations to the House submitted by the rebel lawmakers. Congress argued that taking up voting without Speaker's decision on the resignation issue would leave the confidence motion process without any sanctity.
The Supreme Court has very clearly said that they can't fix it timing. It is obvious it is left to the Speaker, and the Speaker has to take a call. I think a lot of issues has been going on. I think BJP, it is better to wait, not press for, because let all the members comment on whatever they wanted to speak, and after that it can happen.
The JDS Congress government has defied two deadlines set by Governor Vajubhai Vala, who has said in his two missives to the Chief Minister that he has prima facie satisfaction that he has lost the confidence of the House. The proceedings were adjourned till Monday after the Speaker extracted a commitment from the government that the process would be completed by Monday itself. Senior BJP leaders Jagdish Shettar and Madhuswamy told the Speaker that the business on confidence motion should be completed on Monday itself and the debate should not be dragged on endlessly.
Most probably it is a final day, and even Honorable Speaker also promised that Monday is the last day for discussion and even for the division. First he lost the majority, first he has to resign from the post of the Chief Minister. Later on it is left to the Honorable Governor to decide who will form the next government.
Meanwhile, in New Delhi, the Supreme Court refused to urgently list a plea of two independent Karnataka MLAs seeking holding a floor test forthwith, but said it may consider listing of the petition on Tuesday. The bench's remark came when senior advocate Mukul Rohtagi appeared for the two legislators R. Shankar and H. Nagesh. As many as 16 MLAs, 13 from Congress and 3 from JDS have resigned, while independent MLAs R. Shankar and H. Nagesh have withdrawn their support to the coalition government headed by Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy, pushing the government to the precipice. With inputs from Aisha Khanam in Bengaluru, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Presenting a report card after completing 50 days in office, INB Minister Prakash Javadekar said the Modi government is already walking the talk on the promise of swift development and rapid pace of reform in its second term. He said that the government has hit the ground running for the welfare of all sections of society, including farmers, traders, small businesses, unemployed youth and middle class. The country is assured that the pace of reforms, welfare and justice to all has increased as compared to the first term. More in this report.
As Modi 2.0 completes 50 days, the commitment to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas is visible in the rapid pace of decision-making and governance.
Pace of reforms, welfare and justice to all has increased. It actually caters to all sections of society.
Topping the agenda is achieving the target of catapulting India to becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2024. A clear roadmap has been drawn up with an emphasis on boosting infrastructure, ensuring social justice, better quality education, welfare of farmers, traders and MSMEs. Rupees 6,000 support will now be provided to all farmers. 10,000 farmers producer organizations are being formed.
2014 की तुलना में अनेक फसलों का ये एमएसपी 2 गुना, 2.5 गुना, 3 गुना भी बढ़ा है। उसके साथ साथ 10,000 किसान फार्मर्स प्रोड्यूसर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ये तैयार करने का काम हुआ है।
Changes in Labour Code will benefit 40 crore informal sector workers through wage and labour security. For the first time, pension has been provided for traders. Prakash Javadekar also highlighted the reduction in ESI contribution rates for both employees and employers.
सामाजिक सोशल सिक्योरिटी भी मिलेगी और 40 करोड़ मजदूर जो असंगठित क्षेत्र में है उनको न्याय देने का ये भरसक प्रयास है।
In the next 5 years, rupees 100 lakh crores will be invested towards development of infrastructure. A separate Jal Shakti Mantralaya has been created with a focus on ensuring assured water supply to every household.
The formation of Jal Shakti Mantralaya and the mission to reach out to every house by 2024 with assured water supply is a big dream. And we are walking the talk.
Welfare of army men as well as police and CAPF martyrs has also been ensured. Non-functional financial upgradation has been provided to Central Armed Police Forces officers. Scholarships for children of army personnel and police martyrs have also been increased. In a bid to streamline medical education in the country, the government has decided to introduce one entrance and one exit test for postgraduate medical courses. Rupees 70,000 crores has been provided for recapitalization of public sector banks. Separate TV channel for startups will soon be started. All in all, Modi Government 2.0 is building rapidly on the achievements of the past 5 years while adding new dimensions to good governance and welfare for all. With Sharinder Mishra, Bureau Report, DD News.
And now news from regions and regional roundup.
Fire broke out at MTNL building in Bandra West in Mumbai this afternoon. Many stranded on the terrace were rescued by fire brigade personnel who rushed to the spot. Reason for the breakout of the fire is still unknown. During the auspicious month of Sawan, devotees in large numbers visited various temples of Lord Shiv to offer prayers on the first Monday. With the chant of Om Namah Shivaya echoing in the temples, devotees worshipped Lord Shiv and sought his divine blessings. Priests of Srikalahastri temple in Chittoor in Andhra Pradesh performed a Havan named Varna Yagam, wishing for a good rainfall across the nation today. The Yagam will continue till the 24th of July. Police filed a charge sheet against 14 people in the 24th of May major fire mishap at the Takshila Arcade building in Surat, which had claimed lives of 22 students. 11 out of these have been arrested and 3 have been declared absconders. Monsoon session of Jharkhand Assembly began starting today. The first day of the 5-day session saw new members take oath, placing of bills, tabling of first supplementary budget in the Assembly. Senior BJP leader Kalraj Mishra took oath as the new governor of Himachal Pradesh at Raj Bhavan today. He replaced Acharya Devvrat, who has been transferred and appointed as governor of Gujarat. He was elected as an MP from the area in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections.
It was a brisk day for business in Parliament as both houses passed crucial bills. Lok Sabha passed the bill amending the Right to Information Act, which seeks to give the government powers to fix salaries, tenures and other terms and conditions of employment of information commissioners. Parliament also passed a bill to expedite the process of appointment of chairperson and members of NHRC and states' rights bodies, with Home Minister Amit Shah allaying fears of the opposition that the government may influence the appointment to the panels.
As parliamentary proceedings resumed on Monday, Rajya Sabha passed the Protection of Human Rights Amendment Bill 2019. The discussion on the bill was held post 3 p.m. The bill aims at strengthening the existing system. Responding to the concerns raised by opposition, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said that member or chairperson of the NHRC will be chosen by a committee whose members will comprise of the leaders from the opposition. The chosen members or chairperson will not hold any other government position.
इसकी नियुक्ति कौन करता है? गृह मंत्री के सिफारिश पर प्रधानमंत्री नहीं करते हैं। इसके लिए कमेटी बनी है। कमेटी में कौन है? प्रधानमंत्री है, लोकसभा अध्यक्ष जी हैं, गृह मंत्री हैं, विपक्ष के दोनों सदनों के नेता हैं, राज्यसभा के उपसभापति महोदय स्वयं है, और इतने सारे लोग जब मिलकर लगभग यूनिनिमिटी के साथ कोई किसी व्यक्ति की अपॉइंटमेंट करते हैं और उस पर भी हम संशय खड़ा करेंगे मान्यवर, तो मैं नहीं मानता कोई भी लोकतांत्रिक संस्थान काम कर पाएगा।
पिछले 13 वर्षों के दौरान जो आवश्यकताएं सामने आई और जो चुनौतियां दिखी, उसके आधार पर यह संशोधन विधेयक लाया गया है। इसमें राष्ट्रीय और राज्य मानव अधिकार आयोग की कार्यक्षमता और उसमें बहुलता लाने के लिए यह प्रावधान किया गया है।
Meanwhile, proceedings in the Lok Sabha began after paying tributes to former Delhi Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit, Member of Parliament from Samastipur constituency, Ramchandra Paswan. The House was later adjourned till 2 p.m. Post the adjournment, the House debated and passed the RTI Amendment Bill. The bill has proposed changes in the RTI Act 2005.
This government has been absolutely committed, as in other wings of governance, to ensure full transparency, full accountability. कुछ धाराएं ऐसी थी इस आरटीआई एक्ट में, जैसे मैंने इंट्रोडक्शन के समय भी कहा, कि शायद बहुत ज्यादा उत्साह में कहीं ना कहीं कुछ छूट गया। मैं ये भी नहीं कहूंगा जल्दबाजी से छूटा या कुछ और इरादे थे, लेकिन कहीं से कहीं छूट गया। और उन छूटे हुए जो मिसिंग लिंक्स थे उसमें एक ये था कि देयर वाज नो प्रोविजन टू फ्रेम रूल्स।
The RTI Amendment Bill aims at making access of information easier and more transparent. Apart from strengthening the RTI Act 2005, the government wants to make improvement in the existing rules. Though the proceedings in both houses of parliament are going on in full force, a number of bills are still pending. Therefore, it's a matter of contemplation if this session is extended for a couple of days. With Anuj Yadav, Shailendra Mishra, Vikramjeet and Rajesh Raj, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
The flood situation has improved in Assam, with river water levels receding. Relief operations are continuing and thousands of people are taking shelter in over 120 relief camps. With rains letting up, the situation has improved in Bihar as well, but Darbhanga district is the worst affected. Rain fury continued to batter Kerala. Here's a roundup of the flood situation in the affected states.
There is some respite from the heavy rains and flood that has wreaked havoc in Assam. The rivers in Assam which were in spate following heavy rains are flowing below the danger mark now. But the flood situation has affected large number of people. In Barpet, over 10 lakh people in 568 villages have been severely affected by the deluge. Over 13,000 people have taken shelter in around 121 relief centers. Medical camps have also been set up by the army in several districts. In Bihar too, the water level has come down in the rivers as a result of no rains as of now. For now, it seems a long road before normal life comes back on track. In Darbhanga district, lives are affected in many villages. People are having to face difficult times because of the heavy rains. The administration has claimed all the necessary help and assistance is being provided to the affected. Community kitchens are making food available to people. Medicines are being provided. The NDRF is carrying out rescue and relief work on a war footing.
यहाँ पर तो बहुत दिक्कत है। अभाव में है, घर द्वार दहा हुआ है, माल मवेशी कोई चौड़ा नहीं, इस द्वारे यहाँ पर है।
सड़क पर रह रहे हैं, मजबूरी है, फंसे हुए हैं, घर द्वार में पानी इतना चला गया है तो क्या करें, मजबूरी तो रहना ही पड़ेगा ना। माल मवेशी सब घिराया हुआ है, उधर वो सब डूबेगा अलगे। गांव में ही है, मजबूरी में वहाँ पर पानी में ठहरा है, क्या करेंगे।
मेन रोड है, इसको रोड को भी चालू रखना है और सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से अभी तत्काल जो है पत्थर रखा गया है और इसे आगे जो है व्यवस्था किया जा रहा है।
Heavy rains have also battered Kerala. The Met Department has issued red and orange alert for some districts. In the national capital Delhi, Monday was the third day it rained, which led to a drop in the temperature. Some relief is in sight from the floods, even though difficult times are not completely over for the affected. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
In international news, the tension in the strategic waterway of the Gulf region has intensified after a British-flagged oil tanker was seized on the 19th of July and briefly detained a second vessel in the Strait of Hormuz. The seizing of the British tanker marked perhaps the most significant escalation of tensions since May, when US announced steps of dispatching an aircraft carrier and additional troops to the Middle East, citing some kind of threats posed by Iran. The row between Iran and Britain escalated after the two countries accused each other of escalating tensions following Iran's seizure of a British-flagged oil tanker and the detention of Iran's Grace 1 oil tanker in Gibraltar by Britain on 4th July. The British government's Emergency Response Committee, COBRA, discussed the situation at length, and a statement is yet to be made to Parliament on further measures which are to be undertaken by Britain. Well, and in the news coming in from the United States, Imran Khan did face a lot of embarrassment because there was no official from the US administration that had come there to the airport to receive him. Besides that, when he was addressing members of the Pakistani diaspora in the United States, and there were protests, and the protesters raised slogans of Free Balochistan.
All has not turned out well for Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, who reached the US on a 3-day visit. When his flight touched down at the airport, there was no high-ranking US administration official to welcome him. Later, when he went to address the resident Pakistanis, he was faced with demonstrations and protests with Free Balochistan slogans. The protesters from Muttahida Qawmi Movement and other minority groups held protests in Washington, D.C. They protested during Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to the US. The demonstration brought together a range of campaigners who traveled from all around the US only to protest against the oppression by the Pakistani state, human rights violations and state-sponsored atrocities against the oppressed minorities in Pakistan. Their placards read, "No more blank checks for Pakistani army" and "Protect minority rights in Pakistan."
Of our protest is the recent visit of selected Prime Minister Imran Khan along with the establishment leadership. We are protesting here to raise our voice to our President Trump and all the human rights organizations and all the United Nations to please make sure that you do not give any free aid to Pakistan.
Before his visit to the US President Donald Trump had condemned Pakistan on public fora and suspended the military assistance and strongly rebuked Pakistan, asking it to take strong steps against the terror networks. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
That's it then in this edition of Newsnight. News and updates will continue on DD India. Stay tuned.